Hi, welcome back. Thanks for stopping by. So today I'm going to talk again about alignment and about integrity a little bit. When I was first getting started as a young consultant, I studied a lot of the great leaders in consulting. I wanted to learn how they think and how they behave and what they say and what they do. And one of the examples I paid a lot of attention to was W. Edwards Deming, essentially the grandfather, if you will, of total quality management, and a man who left the States to go to Japan to teach total quality management after World War II. And after he became essentially a legend in Japan and came back to the States, one of the things that intrigued me about Deming is that he often said no to companies that approached him and said, we want you to come in and help us. And the reason he said no, in many cases, is because it wasn't the CEO contacting him. It was the head of quality. It was some departmental function head. And he knew that if this was going to truly work, it had to be enterprise-wide. It had to be cultural and not just some program. And I thought that was intriguing. I said, imagine, consultants saying no to companies. We're not interested in working for you because it would be a waste of your time and money, and you're simply not ready. There's an old saying in the East that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I think that's a wonderful statement because we need to be ready to make the kind of changes that lead to truly transformational change, true culture change. Years later, in fact, this goes back now many years in my business, at least 10, I was approached by a company looking for team building training. I had written books on teamwork and team building, and they had discovered me and said, would you come in and provide us with some team building training? So I listened to what they wanted. And one of the questions I asked is, have you provided your team members with training before on teamwork? And the answer is yes, which then led to a series of other questions. And the bottom line is that, yeah, we offered this team training, but it didn't work. All right, there is a clue. All right, you don't train teamwork into an organization. Training certainly helps, but it's got to start with design. So I started asking design questions. Have you designed teamwork into your culture? Do you have metrics on team performance? Do you have incentives for team performance, for sharing? Do you have cross-training and development for people to become more team players? And the answer was no. It was a lot of what I call me-opic, what's in it for me incentives, very individual incentive systems, things like that. And so the expectation was to work as a team, but the measurement and the incentives were all very individual. So long story short, I said, I don't think team building training is going to work for you, and so I politely declined the offer. Now, I got a call about 2 days later from the CEO who said, what do you mean you declined our offer? And I said, you're not going deep enough. You're not going deep enough. And I left him an article that was a Harvard Business Review article at the time from another major corporation about the importance. It was actually written by Ralph Steyer from Johnsonville Foods, who had also written a very popular book, The Flight of the Buffalo, at the time. And this article talked about how Ralph Steyer had to design teamwork essentially into his culture. He had to really rethink the way he and his leadership team thought, and it wasn't just some training type of or motivation type of thing. I left this article with the CEO, and a short time later he called me back and he said, we're ready. We're going to make the changes that we need to make. We cannot continue on the way we are. So he had a sense of urgency. He had a deeper understanding of what it meant to lead culture change. And I got to tell you, the results of that were phenomenal. Some of the systems we put in led to great expansions with this company, even led to the topic of one of my books called Get a Real Life, where I actually teach one of the development systems in the book on how to really get people cross-trained and excited about sharing what they know with one another. So think about that. Are you designing teamwork into your organization? Are you designing it into your department? Are you designing it into your family life? All right. We get what we inspect, not what we expect. Be careful with that. Pay attention to what incentives and what expectations you're setting and how you're designing that into the way we do things around here, your culture. And that's a good place to start. I'll see you again. Thanks for stopping by.